Hello and welcome to the Rugby World Cup Offload here on ThePapare.com, where we review the week that was in the Rugby World Cup 2015. It's been a really entertaining World Cup, and to join me in looking forward at the quarterfinals, former Sri Lanka youth captain, club player and school coach at the moment, Jeevan Gunithalaka joins me in the Papare studios. Welcome, Jeevan.
Thank you, Shanaka.
We were looking at the week that was, and the big game that everyone was talking about was Wales versus Australia. But everyone expected it to be exciting, but in the end it was a dour game for the purists mainly, Jeevan. Are you surprised at that?
Yes, it was surprising because we expected great things, especially from the Australian team. But both teams were very cautious. It was like a boxing fight where everyone was sparring, but no punches were thrown, especially in the first half. And then, of course, if you like your defensive coaching, we saw some awesome defense from Australia. But apart from that, there was nothing to take from that game.
Yes, that was the talking point, the Australian defence. Let's have a look at the highlights of that game, of course, on the ThePapare.com offload. And looking at this match, we had Wales, who were once again decimated by injury. And after this match as well, Jeevan, they've lost Liam Williams once again. He was out for one of their games. But, looking at that attacking threats that they haven't scored a try, and that's not surprising.
Yeah, you got to feel for them, Shanaka, because they've just been plagued with injuries, beyond, it's come to a point where it's beyond repair now. I think they're down to their, third preferred choice. So looking at the way they played, sometimes you can understand where they were just heavily reliant on Biggar's boot, and they hope that he will get them through and that somebody would fire. But I think these guys are just, too battered and bruised. And when you can't hold your scrum, Shanaka, there's very little you can do.
They looked like they were targeting Israel Folau's injury, and Folau wasn't so good. He had an ankle injury coming into this game, and he didn't do those runs and the high ball catches that we expected him to.
No, I think Israel Folau, still his best game is ahead of him. With an injury, he was cautious. But having said that, you don't have to test him under the high ball. You know that there's only one winner in that contest. But even a half-fit Israel Folau, look quite fit when you play against a team that is battered and bruised as Wales. So I don't think Wales is a yardstick to go by. And I think they took a risk in playing Folau, but it shows that they had tremendous respect for the opposition.
Looking at this Australian camp, Jeevan, you look at a guy like Bernard Foley, and then you go back 12 years to 2003, you look at Elton Flatley, completely unheralded players, but keeping this Australian team in the game, working it out for them, and they've got this knack of picking up players like this.
Yes, actually, Australia, when you say union, is their third preferred sport. They've got AFL, they've got league. So I don't know from where they pick these players, and then relaxing on the policy where they bring in Ghetto. Sometimes, how good you are, especially at 10, depends on how good your 12 is.
Yeah.
And when you have a guy at 12 of the caliber of Ghetto, that kind of rubs off on you. And that's what we are seeing, that confidence there. I don't think he would be half the player if he had a less experienced player outside him.
Dan Biggar missing his first kick of the game, and this was the controversial moment, Jeevan. I would have given this. It says it was a knock on me to look at it really slow motion, but look at this. There you go. I don't know. Are we going to disagree again?
I think I'll have to disagree with you again, Shanak. We obviously see things differently, and unfortunately, you were not in the TMO's chair on the day for Wales.
But yeah, he had his body over the ball. I don't know. Anyway, but Dean Mumm, also the second man to go to the sin bin for interference in the air after Will Genia had gone. How hard is it, Jeevan? As a coach, what do you tell your players to do when you're two men down?
It's very little you can do, Shanaka. Actually, it's very frustrating, especially if we sit in the coach's box and something like that happens. But from a player's perspective, it does happen. You get caught up in the moment. But at this level, when it's 15-13, you expect the international team to score a try. And Wales were just not good enough. As simply as that, they made Australia look brilliant. They were good, but you just have to score a try, and it's 15-13.
We've been talking about this pool of death, Jeevan, and as a result of that, we've maybe overestimated the contribution of Wales and England, and that's the benchmark we're judging Australia by. Are Australia flattering themselves a little bit?
Yeah, I think we can finally agree on one point there. I think this group of death hasn't really been the group of death, because if you face facts, I think England and Wales have been far below par. They've not been good enough, and I don't think either of those teams should be in the quarterfinal. You see, England were very poor, and even Wales, for me, have just got themselves one more game in this competition. So the real pool of death is not Group A, because Australia were head and shoulders above them. In 13 versus 15, if you still win a game, then it's not really much of a competition, is it?
Yeah, Warren Gatland has been accused of playing Gatland ball, which is just take it straight up the middle through Jamie Roberts. We'll see whether they can change things around when it comes to the quarterfinals. They will, of course, be playing South Africa. We'll talk about those in just a moment as well. But we had some other matches on the weekend as well. And that one, the first one of those was New Zealand versus Tonga. New Zealand needed a performance, Jivan, and they got one from Tonga.
Yeah, it's like this, Shanak. I think when you play New Zealand, it's more than just a game. You're playing the All Blacks. It's something that you do well, you score a try, or you do something remarkable. It's something you talk to your grandchildren about. So any team that plays you, is going to come lock, stock, and barrel at you. And New Zealand, people are looking at them. They're the public gaze. People are saying, they're not playing as well as they should, or they're not peaking at the right time. That kind of plays on you. So then you try extra hard, and it leads to various errors. But I don't think it's anything to go by. Come by the quarterfinal, they'll be as good as anybody else.
Yeah, I have that feeling as well, except of course with their quarterfinal opponents. But let's look at the match from the actual group of death, Jivan, and that was Pool B, where Scotland played Samoa and Japan played the US. If Scotland lost, they were out. So it was a knockout game for them. In the end, they won 36 points to 33. But Samoa can feel a little hard done by.
I think, we speak about Japan also, but actually the team that has actually underperformed and who could have really caused a threat in the quarterfinal is Samoa. If you look at the quality they have, and it's unfortunately they clicked in the last game of the competition because they were outstanding. I thought they were half done by a few of the calls. I thought they were unfortunate, but they just clicked. And for a team, I think their main issue is that they don't train regularly. If they had their players on a regular basis, they would have been one of the front runners in this tournament. And
looking at Scotland, they've been rather fortuitous, Jivan, with the refereeing calls against Japan to start with, and now against Samoa as well. They had a try, Khan Fatuali's try disallowed, and Mahafa's try disallowed as well. So, where do you go from there when you've got such obvious issues cropping up? How does the World Rugby deal with this?
Yeah, I think it's something that will definitely be looked at, especially if you're serious about making rugby a global sport. We all talk about it. We talk about taking the World Cup to Japan, but then if you really want to make it a world sport, then you've got to open avenues for everybody and keep everyone on the equal playing scale. You can't presume outcomes in a way that favors the more established nations. So that's something I'm sure the world governing body will look at and make sure that things are looked at differently.
Yeah, I think Japan have been very gracious in defeat as well. Eddie Jones saying that his team will be one of the most remembered in this World Cup, and that's true. They managed to beat the US by 28 points to 18, Jivan, but really unfortunate. With 3 wins, they're still going home.
Yes, I think it's the first time it has happened, and it should not happen. But, ironically, that's just the way the cookie crumbles for Japan. And like you said, another noticeable thing in these things is even when teams are half done, you never see anything about it. You don't see any reaction. You don't see, I don't think there's even a word spoken in anger, so all that gets swept under the carpet. And I think Japan would still be happy with their performance. Quarterfinal would have been nice, but I think it would have been a step too far because I don't think, South Africa is going to happen again.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think 3 out of 4 they'll take that as opposed to 5 out of 3, and they'll definitely build for the next World Cup.
Yeah, they had 1 win, 1 draw previously in the matches that they had played in the World Cup, so they've actually doubled their return with this single World Cup alone. So congratulations to Eddie Jones, Michael Leach and Japan. We're looking forward to 2019 in their country for sure. So let's look at France versus Ireland briefly before we go through the qualifiers. France 9, Ireland 24 at massive cost, but still France, Jivan, just failing to turn up.
Yeah, well, if you look at the scoreline, France not scoring a try is a rarity because they're normally, you associate France with flair and the run and pass game. So if you look at the scoreline, it hasn't turned out to be the cliffhanger that it was. It wasn't. It was a one-sided game, and I think Philippe Saint-André will be very worried, because there's a lot of talk in the media about France, New Zealand, but you've got to be realistic. It's all about momentum. You have to go into this tournament with something behind you. And when you go on the, on the back of a performance like this, where your fly half is being targeted, your fly half can't give you any go-forward ball, it's a cause for concern. And we mustn't kid ourselves to think that France is going to do something spectacular. They could, but I think, it's just not good enough. And once again, because Ireland isn't playing brilliant rugby. I thought Ireland were fortunate to get past Italy. they're not playing the rugby that they were playing in the Six Nations. Probably they have peaked too early. So it's not really a yardstick to go by. If you look at the proper teams that are playing, Argentina are playing good rugby. South Africa have come a long way from their initial shake-up. And the Wallabies are playing outstanding rugby. So none of the Six Nation teams are playing rugby anywhere close to that quality.
And now we'll look forward to the weekend's quarterfinals, Saturday and Sunday, see 4 games. And we have South Africa versus Wales and New Zealand versus France on the first day, that's Saturday, and then Australia versus Scotland and Ireland, Argentina on Sunday. Let's take those 4 games. Even South Africa, Wales, pretty much South Africa's game, you think?
Yeah, I think Wales are just too exhausted. When you talk about South Africa, we all know how they're going to play. It's not going to be no surprise. They're just going to come straight at you, hit you hard. They're big ball runners, second row forwards. Vermeulen, they're just going to run straight at you, and they just take Wales apart. I don't think it's going to be much of a competition. I think Dan Biggar will keep them in the competition, but I'll be surprised if he lasts the game.
Yeah, George North also still an unknown quantity in this World Cup. He's made a few runs, but really hasn't got too much of the ball. So that's Jeevan's call for you, and I tend to agree with him actually because for once, that South Africa will just be too much physically for this Wales team. Then we have the long-awaited quarterfinal. Even before this tournament started, I think people were speculating on it. And New Zealand-France at that fateful Millennium Stadium where they capitulated in 2007. You think more of the same, or you think New Zealand have learned their lesson?
Well, first I wonder whether Wayne Barnes is refereing the game. Is he?
I think he might
to
be.
make it complete. Yeah, why not?
I think he might be.
Complete rerun. Well, a lot has been said, a lot will be said, it will sell the tickets for sure. But, we've got to be realistic. And at the moment, I don't think France are playing good enough rugby. They're not playing to their strengths. It doesn't have the same flair that you saw in 2007. So I think they're a lot more predictable. And I don't think New Zealand is going to take any chance. So I don't think if New Zealand is going to stumble in this World Cup, it's not going to be at the quarterfinal stage.
I've been accused of being an All Black fan, which I am. But then looking objectively at this, Jivan, they don't have the X-factor sort of players, France, that they did in 99 and 2007.
Correct. Yeah, France is more predictable. They've tightened things up, in that sense they're good. But they don't have the flair or the X-factor. I know Wesley Fofana is there, but the complete X-factor to get around this All Black side. And the All Black side has the X-factor. They've got players like Milner Skada. I know you're not a fan of his, but they've got a very good tight five. They're very organized, and their team has been playing together for a long time. So unfortunately for the viewers, I don't think it's going to be much of a contest rather.
Yeah, I hope that's the case from an All Black point of view. Australia versus Scotland again. Australia too much?
Far too superior. I think that's going to be absolutely one-sided. I think Scotland are just very, very lucky to be where they are. And I think they'll enjoy the moment because they're going home.
And then Ireland versus Argentina, probably the closest of the semi-finals, but again I think it's going to be a bit of a blowout to Argentina.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Shanaka, in the 99 World Cup there was a quarter-final between Argentina and Ireland, and it was called the Battle of the Lovers, or the Romantics. Sorry, Romantics is the correct term. I think rugby-wise it's going to be a cracking quarter-final. I think Argentina, the most underrated side, they're playing fantastic rugby. They probably have the only other tight five which has the ball skills to match the All Blacks. They've got some big boys there who run with the ball. They've got a good fly half, they can kick.
And a third row,
which is also underrated. But if you look at the man-to-man, they're second to nobody. And they've got that, football-like, support. So I think Argentina will definitely make it to the semi-finals. I'll be very surprised if they don't get past Ireland.
Yeah, so Jeevan and I can agree on that as well, and say that it's going to be an all-Southern Hemisphere quarterfinals of semi-finals rather. Let's look now at the top point scorers so far. The group stage we'll say goodbye to quite a few amazing players, and let's have a look at some of the top point scorers in that game. And also the big factor of the Jonah Lomu's record being equaled by Brian Habana, 15 tries, but one more World Cup.
Yes, you could say that. It's like Sachin Tendulkar and betting statistics. But I think I'm agreeing with a lot of things today, Shana. This is a very unusual day. That the difference is every single try that Jonah Lomu scored was memorable, or at least 90% of them. Habana, is a bit of a thief. There's a bit of interception and all, but you've got to give credit where it's due. He is going to hold the record. I think he's going to break that record in the games to come, because it's not going to be a one-game situation. I think they'll go through to the semi-finals. But having said that, I think we'll always remember Jonah Lomu as the person who put rugby on the rugby map.
And let's look at the top point scorers for the moment. We have Brian Habana once again alongside Julian Savea, who will be going through to the quarterfinals. So look to them to add to that try count, and then the point scorers as well. Greg Laidlaw, surprisingly, is the man at the top of the point scoring list.
Yeah, well, I suppose suppose when you play for Scotland, you got to do everything yourself. So it's a little situation like that. But I mean, it's another, I think, incentive for the smaller made players. If you're Craig Laidlaw's size and you can still score 60 points, and I think that's enough inspiration for us Asians.
Yeah, and one guy that really did inspire the Asians also is the guy with 2 points less than him, Ayumu Goromaru, the Japanese fullback. He was absolutely outstanding in every game that he played. His core skills were superb, and that's just a lesson for the rest of us here. So that's about it for the Offload edition, this particular Offload edition. We'll be back with our semi-final edition of Offload when we come back as well. Jeevan, thanks very much for joining us. Looking forward to a great week of rugby.
Yes, looking forward to the weekend.
And don't forget, join ThePapare.com for all your action.